Chapter 10, Part 3. So in this short video, we're going to be looking at Part 3 here, Object Relations Theory, and look at what that theory has to say about early childhood attachment, and then what is the effect of that attachment that they develop in childhood with their adult relationships. Object relation theory. So the object is the internal mother. Okay, so this theory emphasizes social relationships and their origins in childhood. The child develops through the relationship that has with their mother this internal representation of their mothers, the object, the unconscious mother within. Okay, and that child relates with this mother. And the kind of relationship that it develops, how it sees the mother, how it relates to the mother, that forms how the child relates to other people. It affects their personality. It's like, do I have got all this on here? Yeah. Do I trust the people in the world? So if they've got a positive, comforting, loving, nurturing relationship with their mother, then that's how they're going to view others in the world, right? The world is wonderful and trusting, and other people are caring and trusting, and that's their outlook. If the relationship with the mother is not trustworthy, if the child feels abandoned or neglected or not cared for, then the child forms an object relations of like internalized that sort of representation of what relationships are like in the world. So that means that child will see the world as untrustworthy and uncaring and unpredictable. Okay. Trying to change the slide. There we go. So there's three pieces of research, big pieces of research that they cite here, and you should know these pieces of research. Okay. Harlow, 1958. This is one you would have heard of, definitely, is the infant monkey. Where they had, he was looking at attachment, right? So he noticed he had fake monkey mothers that were made of wire and cloth, and he had warm, responsive mothers, okay? Well, they were wire, they were cloth, sorry. So, and then he watched their behavior. So the fake mothers, monkeys that were in the fake mother condition, and they just had this cold wire mother. So there was no warmth, there was no caring, there was nothing, right? So these monkeys grew up to be insecure, anxious, and not normal sexual relationships as adults. Whereas the monkeys in the warmer condition did not. They grew up with more normal relationships growing up. So he concluded attachment requires physical contact, warm, and responsive mother. Okay, so this is the first part about attachment. So we know about that now. So at the time, this was a big deal. He also asserted that this physical contact and warmth and responsiveness and caring and loving, it's very critical during the first 6 months. So next comes Bowlby, 1969. No. So he studied how infants reacted when their mother left the room. So attachment is already a thing. And people are continuing to investigate what effect does attachment have, and how does attachment work, and what about kids who have low attachment versus like very high attachment, all of these things. So he studied how infants reacted when their mother left the room. And what they found were there was 3 reactions. Some of the children, some of the infants seemed to trust that the mother was going to come back, right? They didn't seem that upset. And when the mom came back, the child was happy, sort of continued on playing, and didn't seem upset at all. Seemed perfectly happy. Another group other children seemed agitated and distressed when the mother left until she came back. And when she did come back, only she could calm the child. and then the child was okay. And then another reaction was when the mother left, the child looked depressed. And when the mother came back, the child was still depressed and angry that she left, a little bit unconsolable, even by the mother. So Bowlby coined this separation anxiety, which is a negative reaction to separation from the mother, depressed or depressed when the mother leaves. The third study is from Ainsworth in 1979, and this one is called the strange situation procedure. So in this one, it's similar to Bowlby's, just a little bit different in that, so the mother's in the room and the infants are playing. Well, it's a lab, but it looks like a living room. It's got toys and whatnot. So they're in this room and the child's playing, infant's playing. And then a stranger enters the room and sits down. Shortly after, the mother leaves and they videotape the child's reaction to the mother leaving. And then after the mother left, how did the child react? And then when the mother came back, how did the child react? And they found the same 3 patterns of behavior that Bowlby found up here. There we go. Research using strange situation procedure. So they found the secure attachment. So that's the one where the child, like when the mother left, they continued to play. And then when the mother came back, the child was happy she returned, but they continued to play. Okay. And they found that 66% of the children were like this. Then they had avoidant attachment. And that's when the mother left and the child sort of seemed, aloof, unfazed, didn't really care that the mother left and didn't really care when she came back. Then there's ambivalent, which was 14%, which was very anxious when the mom left, right? Very anxious. And then when the mother came back, the child was angry, wanted to be with the mom, but was squirmy, so I want to be with you, but I'm mad at you at the same time. So mothers of secure attachment tend to be more affectionate and responsive to babies. That's one of the things that he concluded. A fourth type of attachment by Main and Solomon, 1986, they introduced disorganized attachment, which is a combination of anxious and avoidant and angry behavior. This type of attachment tended to be found in mothers who were abusive or were suffering from depression or trauma themselves. So before we move on, please do read these 3 studies and really get to know what happened in each study and what the main findings were. This is sort of a study, so Bowlby and others. So early attachment experiences and reactions of infants to parents, especially the mother, form working models for later adult relationships, right? So that makes sense. The type of relationship that you have with the very first person in your life determines how you see the world and how you see relationships and how you see other people. And that makes sense. Working models are internalized in the form of unconscious expectations about relationships. They also may influence our personalities. That's the key part here, right? And it's key to note that it's unconscious expectations. So the relationship that you have with your mother at that time, that's just normal for you, right? People are either wonderful and loving and caring, and that's normal for you. Or if you did not receive that affection and care and that love, that seems normal to you. So that's what everybody's like. Everybody's not caring and untrustworthy. And that's just the way the world looks to you. Then they have a section that has, what does this mean? Okay, so if it's going to influence our personalities, for example, avoidant attachment, that type of attachment is associated with grandiose narcissism in adulthood. So there is correlations and associations between attachment type and your personality when you are an adult. Ambivalent attachment is associated with vulnerable narcissism. So take a look at the different types of associations there are with the attachment styles and adult personality types. There we go. So the next section is adult relationships. Investigate whether attachment style developed in childhood is related to adult romantic relationships. So Hazen and Shaver, very similar. Okay, so the 3 relationship styles. If you had secure relationship when you were an infant, when you're an adult, you tend to have fewer problems developing relationships. You trust others and you can develop bonds easily, or easier. If you had an avoidant attachment as a child, you may have difficult trusting others. So this is in romantic relationships, right? Difficulty trusting others, suspicious of others' motives, afraid of commitment because you anticipate you're going to be disappointed, you're going to be abandoned, they're going to leave you and dump you anyways. So you don't really trust them and you kind of don't commit. Again, not necessarily consciously, right? Ambivalent, if you had an ambivalent attachment style as an infant, vulnerability and uncertainty about relationships, overtly dependent and demanding. Let's just fix that now. There we go. Very needy, need for constant reassurance and attention. So needy type. And then finally, take a look at Bartholomew, 1990. So he proposed a 4-category model of attachment in adulthood. It's also important to note that these are dimensions. Okay, you're not specifically in one category. There's dimensions here. So adult attachment styles are an interaction between the 2 dimensions. So there's attachment-related anxiety. Does my partner love me anxiety? And then there's attachment-related avoidance. So there's anxiety and there's avoidance. Can I trust and depend on others? Let's see if I can do this. Let's make it green because that's the important part. And I am doing it with you right here in the video because there. Okay, there's the 2 dimensions, anxiety and avoidance. So anxiety, oh my gosh, does my partner love me? Are they going to leave? And then avoidance, can I trust them? Can I depend on others? Or am I going to avoid them, or can I get close? So a dismissive, avoidant person equals minimize closeness. So high avoidance and high anxiety. Deny the need for intimacy. And then fearful avoidant, getting tongue-tied again, desires closeness, but they're uncomfortable with it. Okay, so people on this one here, fearful avoidant. They really want to be close, but they're also very uncomfortable with it. So they're high in anxiety and high in avoidance. So take a look at Bartholomew's work, 1990, and how this works, and what does that mean in adult relationships. Ooh. So finally, the question is, we're adults now. We can't do anything about the way we saw our world in the first 6 months of life. So are we doomed to whatever happened at that time? Right? So if you had a untrusting relationship with your mother or primary caregiver, your first relationship was not great, and now that developed into some an anxiousness around others and a distrustfulness around others, is that the way you're going to be for the rest of your life? The answer, they say, is no. Even the poorest childhood experiences with relationships can be overcome. You are not permanently damaged. Subsequent positive experiences can compensate for negative relationships. So people exposed to a living, nurturing relationship in adulthood can revise their working models of object relationships. You can create new mental versions of relationships. One that is secure and one that is trusting. Okay? So you are not doomed for life. You likely have to actively create that and really notice, you know, but you can overcome it and develop a new, secure view of relationships. And that is the end of object relations theory and the end of chapter 10. I will see you in the next video.